You are not free. You are merely entertained. You've been told your attention is yours to give, but in truth, it has already been taken parceled, sold, and reprogrammed. Not by tyrants in towers, but by systems so fluid, so banal, so omnipresent that they do not ask for your loyalty. They manufacture it. You scroll, you react, you obey. Not from fear of violence, but from hunger for relevance. This is no longer the age of swords and chains. This is the empire of signals, of curated outrage, of synthetic belonging. Control now wears the face of convenience. It flatters you, it amuses you, it saves you time while wasting your will. And while you are distracted, the architecture of your world is redesigned in silence. You see, the modern ruler does not impose power. He dissolves resistance. He knows that domination in the old style breeds heroes and martyrs and legends. But domination through distraction? That breeds nothing, only noise, so they give you endless choice where none of it matters. You are a node, a unit, a measurable pulse in a network. Your outrage is productized. Your rebellion is monetized. Your values preloaded, pre-approved, pre-weakened. You don't even need to be censored, only submerged. Because what is the point of silencing a voice that can be drowned in the ocean of a million others all shouting into the void? This is not conspiracy. This is structure. And power, true power, is structural. It does not chase headlines. It engineers the conditions in which headlines are written. It does not beg for attention. It orchestrates the rhythm of attention itself. Understand this. The battle is not over truth. It is over focus. For whoever determines what you look at determines what you feel, and whoever shapes what you feel owns what you will do. Now ask yourself, when was the last time your attention was truly your own? Not baited by algorithm, not pulled by tribal reflex, not hijacked by a narrative designed to addict. You do not need to be told what to think. You only need to be given what to react to. And once that chain is built, it does not need a master. It sustains itself. It polices itself. It breeds generations of obedient cynics, loud, angry, proud, but never dangerous. This is not freedom. This is theater. And while you are watching the actors argue on stage, the architects behind the curtain revise the script. They redraw the maps. They shift the levers of finance, of policy, of war. Because you are not meant to see that. You are meant to be seen seeing. You are meant to feel informed while being engineered. They do not fear your voice. They fear your silence. They fear the moment you pause and begin to see the machine. Power today wears a smile. It whispers in the language of progress. But it feeds on submission, not violent submission, but voluntary, smiling, willing, wrapped in the illusion of choice. This is how you are ruled now, through seduction, not force. And if you cannot see it, it is not because it is hidden, it is because it has replaced your reflection. You are the user. You are the product. You are the prisoner in a cell built from your own preferences. They do not break you. They tune you. They tune your fears, your hungers, your insecurities. They inflate your self-worth with borrowed status. They feed your need to be seen, so they can make you predictable, controllable, expendable. And if you resist, if you awaken, they will not destroy you. They will mock you, flood you, overwhelm your signal with noise until you either collapse into despair or retreat into impotence. This is the genius of modern control. It makes resistance feel futile before resistance even begins. But you are not powerless. You are simply untrained. You have mistaken noise for narrative, emotion for action, comfort for sovereignty. Power is not given. It is not granted. It is taken or it is lost. And every second you are distracted, someone else is deciding your future. Not because they are smarter, but because they are more focused, less moral, more strategic. They do not care what you believe, only what you will obey. They study your psychology not to understand you, but to override you, to hijack your instincts, to predict your reactions, to fracture your attention into fragments too weak to unify. So, you cannot organize, you cannot challenge, you cannot win, because you are always chasing shadows while they move the sun. This is not accidental, this is design. And every empire, ancient or digital, knows the most stable form of control is the one that feels like freedom. The lie that wears your face, the leash you choose, the empire you defend because you think you built it. But here's the truth. If you do not master your attention, someone else will. And once they own your focus, they own your future. Now ask yourself, who benefits from your distraction and who fears your silence? Because in silence, there is awareness. And in awareness, there is power. Not the power of rage, but the power of sight, of restraint, of intent. The power to observe without obeying, to think without reacting, to see through the spectacle and find the hand behind the curtain. This is the beginning, not of rebellion, but of lucidity. And from that lucidity, you can build something ruthless, something disciplined, something that cannot be bought, baited, or broken. That is the power they truly fear. Not noise, but clarity. Not chaos, but command. Not reaction, but resolve. So take back your focus, starve their machine, sharpen your instincts. And remember, they never had to chain you. They only had to keep you distracted. You ask why the world feels hollow, why every crisis blends into the next, numbing rather than awakening. You think you are informed, but you are only overwhelmed, drowning in updates that feed your panic and starve your perspective. You are not supposed to understand, only to react, rapidly, emotionally, predictably. Because reaction is profitable, measured in clicks, shares, market fluctuations, public opinion swings. But understanding? That is dangerous. Understanding is slow, it is patient. It resists the engineered urgency that defines modern governance, and those who understand they cannot be led by noise. The strategist behind the curtain knows this. He does not attack your body, he erodes your time. He does not silence your voice, he shortens your attention span. He does not dismantle your convictions, he dilutes them into trends. And you, believing you are engaged, are merely embedded in a simulation of relevance. This is not politics. This is programming. Power today is not seized through conquest. It is sustained through compliance. And compliance is no longer extracted by fear, but seduced through dopamine, a flicker of pleasure, a flash of novelty, a constant stream of distractions dressed as demands. You are made to feel busy, yet you accomplish nothing of strategic value. Why? Because a distracted mind cannot build, it cannot discern friend from foe, it cannot develop discipline. A distracted mind is politically sterile, emotionally reactive, yet strategically impotent. And that is exactly how they want you, passionate, but aimless. So they feed you symbols, manufactured enemies, ritualistic outrage. They reduce politics to tribal theater, so you mistake your rage for resistance. But rage without clarity is a currency of control. It burns hot and fast and leaves behind no structure, no movement, no leadership. The sovereign mind, the one that can lead, the one that can see, is forged not in anger, but in cold reflection, in the refusal to be baited, in the ability to watch the spectacle unfold and choose not to join the chorus. That is the first discipline of power, restraint. The modern world rewards immediacy, but leadership demands delay, the pause before action, the calculation before response, the silent study of terrain before the first move. Without that pause, you are not a leader, you are a pawn with an audience. And pawns with audiences are the most easily used. They feel influential, they feel seen, but their scripts are written elsewhere. They are celebrated not for what they control, but for how easily they can be controlled. Because the new rulers do not need to conquer land, they conquer perception. They do not need to imprison bodies, they imprison frameworks. They define the horizon of your thought so precisely that you believe anything outside it is insanity, and so you defend your cage because it is familiar. Comfort is the new containment. You will not feel oppressed. You will feel entertained. The cage will come with fast internet and infinite content. It will speak your language. It will flatter your beliefs. It will keep you loyal, not through fear, but through feedback loops of affirmation. And if you stray too far, you will be laughed back into place. Mockery is the new censorship. The sovereign who sees this, who sees how the system sustains itself through distraction and derision, must move differently. He does not shout, he studies. He does not defend his virtue, he adapts his strategy. He knows that visibility is vulnerability, that to be too loud is to be predictable, and predictability is death in the arena of real power. Because real power does not announce itself, it does not protest its innocence, it does not demand to be understood. It watches, it waits, and when it moves with precision. This is the second discipline of power, invisibility. In a world obsessed with performance, the ruler remains off stage. While the crowd fights over appearances, he negotiates outcomes. While the public chases narratives, he engineers conditions. The actor needs applause, the sovereign needs leverage. And leverage begins where noise ends. To acquire leverage, you must detach from the spectacle. You must see through it, not as a cynic, but as an architect. Not to mock it, but to measure it. Not to react, but to repurpose. You do not fight illusions by shouting at them. You fight illusions by mastering what they obscure. And what they obscure, above all, is the machinery of decision. Who decides? On what basis? In whose interest? Through which mechanisms? These are the questions the distracted mind never asks. These are the questions that terrify the structure. Because if you knew the answers, you would stop playing their game and begin building your own. This is the third discipline of power, construction. The sovereign does not merely see, he builds institutions, networks, systems of consequence. He does not beg for change, he engineers the preconditions for it. And to do that, he must abandon the moral illusions of the crowd. Because the world does not reward virtue, it rewards structure. And if your virtue has no structure, no system of action, of loyalty, of command, it will be devoured by those who build faster than you moralize. You think evil triumphs because the world is unjust, but often evil triumphs because it is better organized. So, organize, in silence, in strategy, in sovereignty. You will be called ruthless. Let them speak. You will be called paranoid. Let them laugh. You will be called dangerous. And if you are building something real, you should be. Because the sovereign is not here to be liked. He is here to last. He understands that politics is not about ideals. It is about alignment. Who is aligned with whom? For how long? At what cost? Under what terms? The rest is theater. Necessary, perhaps, but not decisive. What is decisive is loyalty. Not the sentimental kind, the structural kind. Loyalty that is bound not by affection, but by interest. You do not need to be loved. You need to be needed. You do not need applause. You need leverage. This is the fourth discipline of power, loyalty through necessity. Every leader faces betrayal, but betrayal is only lethal to those who build on illusion. If you build on necessity, betrayal becomes less likely and less dangerous. You do not eliminate betrayal by trusting more. You eliminate it by making defection more costly than loyalty. Because in politics, as in war, no one is loyal to weakness. Build systems where people gain from your survival, where your downfall costs them something real. Then watch how loyalty hardens, not into sentiment but into structure. And structure is what endures. Noise fades, mobs forget, movements collapse, but structure, if designed properly, outlives even the architect. This is the only immortality power can offer. You will not be remembered for what you felt. You will be remembered for what you built and whether it endured. So build as if you will be forgotten. Build as if your name does not matter. Build in the shadows. Build with focus. Build with the knowledge that every empire begins with silence and ends with spectacle. Do not begin with spectacle. Begin with silence, with awareness, with command. Because until you take back your focus, you will always serve someone else's design. And that design does not need you free. It only needs you distracted. The crowd is loud, but the strategist is quiet. You want to matter? Then learn to matter in silence. While the world begs for attention, command it without needing it. The more visible your desperation, the more easily you are maneuvered. You cannot influence a system while being fully absorbed by it. You confuse noise for resistance, visibility for agency. But those who win truly win, operate beneath the level of spectacle. Their moves are not announced, but discovered only in hindsight. When the consequences arrive, it's already too late to reverse them. That's the tempo of real power, slow, patient, irreversible. Here is your problem. You want speed. You want victory like a delivery. But anything that arrives too quickly is already compromised. The speed they sell you is the pace of impotence. Fast, loud, busy, but never effective. If you want to command, you must first slow down. This is the fifth discipline of power, tempo. A commander does not march to the tempo of the crowd. He imposes his own rhythm. When you control the tempo, you control the battlefield. You define the urgency. You escalate when it serves you. You delay when it disorients your adversary. Tempo is not time, it is timing. And timing, in politics and war, is the closest thing to fate. Those who rush are ruled by others' clocks. Those who wait are often mistaken for passive until they strike. Learn to wait, not idly, but strategically. Waiting is the training ground of those who will one day decide. And while you wait, watch. Observation is your weapon. While others talk, you map. While they cheer, you analyze. While they panic, you measure the terrain. In every wave of chaos, someone is gaining ground. If it is not you, it is someone more focused than you are. Ask yourself, who gains when the world moves too fast for thought? The ones who have already positioned themselves before the crisis. The ones who feed the panic because panic is profitable and confusion is cover. If you want to rule, you must learn to think like a predator in a forest of prey. That does not mean cruelty. It means clarity. It means discipline. It means rejecting the emotional rhythm of the herd. The herd does not think. It flinches. It stampedes. It consumes. It screams for safety while marching towards slaughter. The ruler, if he is wise, does not lead the herd, he shepherds the terrain it moves through. Understand this. The masses will never be sovereign. Not because they are incapable, but because they are always distracted. They can act, they can move, they can vote, they can riot, but they cannot sustain attention long enough to consolidate power. This is the sixth discipline of power, endurance. Movements are nothing without endurance. A flash of anger is not strategy. A viral idea is not a doctrine. A protest is not a regime. If you cannot outlast your enemy, you will never outmaneuver him. Endurance is the quiet killer. It does not win headlines, it wins outcomes. But endurance requires detachment. If your identity is tied to the reaction of others, you will never last. If your will is broken by mockery, you are not ready. If you must constantly be reassured that you are right, then you are too fragile to rule. To endure, you must learn the discipline of solitude. You must learn to move without applause, to build without validation, to plan without telling anyone what you're planning. You must become comfortable being misunderstood. Because real power does not explain itself. It does not beg to be liked. And while you endure, Others will burn out. They will scream and rage and crash. They will turn on each other. They will mistake noise for strength. And when the storm passes, they will be gone. You, if you endured, will remain. And from there, you begin to shape the world. But shaping the world begins with shaping perception. Because the battlefield of modern power is not the streets. It is not the courtroom. It is not even the election. It is the narrative. This is the seventh discipline of power, narrative warfare. Control the narrative, and you control the context. Control the context, and you control the meaning of every action taken within it. In the modern world, truth is not erased. It is reframed. The facts are not hidden, they are interpreted. He who controls interpretation controls the terrain. If you allow others to define the terms of debate, you have already lost. Do not fight within their frame. Break it, replace it. Own the language, own the metaphors. Own the assumptions behind the questions. The sovereign mind never argues to win the moment. He argues to shift the axis, to plant new coordinates, and then he waits while others slowly begin to speak in the vocabulary he designed. You think narrative is shaped by evidence. It's not. It's shaped by confidence, by repetition, by the illusion of consensus, by emotional rhythm. This is why rulers do not merely respond, they anticipate. They do not just play the game, they program the rules. So ask yourself, what story are you trapped in? Who benefits from the way you see the world? And more importantly, can you write a story that others will enter, willingly? Because the sovereign is not just a commander, he is a storyteller, a sculptor of perception, an architect of belief. He understands that people do not follow logic, they follow signals, they follow strength, they follow the one who acts as if the future already belongs to him. This is the eighth discipline of power, preeminence. Power obeys perception. If you look like you are waiting for permission, you will never be feared. If you act like a supplicant, you will be treated like one. You must look inevitable, move like gravity, speak like consequence. This is not arrogance, it is calibration. You are not pretending to be more than you are projecting what you are becoming, not to convince others, but to reinforce your own trajectory. Because perception feeds reality, and the ruler understands this feedback loop. He does not dress for comfort, he dresses for command. He does not speak to be heard, he speaks to be obeyed. Every word, every gesture, every silence calculated. Not out of vanity, but out of necessity, because every signal you send either expands your influence or exposes your weakness. You cannot afford accidental signals. People follow those who look like they are already followed. Respect follows posture. Legitimacy follows presence. If you want to be treated as power, you must carry yourself as power long before you have it. And once you do have it, do not flaunt it, consolidate it, hide it behind institutions, enshrine it in precedent, mask it in process, because raw power alarms but structured power lasts. This is the ninth discipline of power, concealment. The most dangerous sovereign is the one no one sees coming. His power is not in his name, but in his influence. He does not fight to be at the table, he builds the room where the table will be placed. He does not demand loyalty. He designs systems where loyalty is the most logical path. He knows that the moment you become the symbol, you become the target. The moment you become visible, you become vulnerable. So he lets others take credit. He lets others take blame. He moves in shadows, not out of fear, but out of strategy. Because power that is seen too clearly becomes power that must be challenged. But power that is embedded, distributed, encoded in systems and habits and rituals, that power becomes invisible, and invisible power is the most effective kind. It does not provoke, it persists. And when it does act, it does so without warning, without resistance, without permission. By then, it's not even called power, it's just how the world works. The most enduring power does not come from laws, armies, or elections. It comes from what is accepted as natural. When people no longer question the structure not because they fear it, but because they no longer see it, that is when control becomes permanent. This is the 10th discipline of power, normalization. The ruler who understands normalization doesn't need to suppress. He doesn't need to explain. He simply repeats. Over time, repetition wears down resistance. The abnormal becomes familiar. The familiar becomes acceptable. The acceptable becomes invisible. This is how entire populations come to defend what once horrified them, not because they were forced, but because their baseline was shifted, inch by inch, not overnight, not with force, but with rhythm, with routine, with slow redefinition. You do not need to be convinced. You only need to be conditioned. And so they create rituals, not the kind with robes and incense, but the rituals of modernity, the morning scroll, the performance of outrage, the reflex of compliance dressed as choice. These rituals are the architecture of your psychological cage. They become the rhythm of your day, your beliefs, your politics. You think you're choosing, but you're only participating in a script, one you never wrote. The sovereign does not consume ritual, he designs it. He understands that if you can control what people do habitually, you don't need to control what they think. Thought follows action. Belief follows behavior. When they repeat the motion, they absorb the meaning, even if it was not theirs to begin with. This is how ideologies are installed, not argued. Installed, like software, quietly. Which leads to the 11th discipline of power, installation. Installation is deeper than persuasion. It's not about winning debates. It's about embedding assumptions so deeply that the debate never happens. It's about shaping defaults, setting parameters, framing the field. If you control the defaults, you control the decisions, even when people think they're deciding freely. You don't need to outlaw the truth. You just need to make it feel out of place, irrelevant, uncomfortable. And then, the crowd will reject it themselves. The sovereign doesn't argue for what is right. He installs what is normal. So ask yourself, what defaults rule your mind? What assumptions do you carry that were never yours to begin with? Who benefits from those assumptions? Because if your mind is filled with preloaded scripts, you are not free. You are functioning as designed by someone else. Now, most people will never confront this, because confrontation requires pain, and pain is something the structure teaches you to avoid at all costs. Which brings us to the 12th discipline of power, pain. No structure lasts without it. No authority consolidates without it. Power and pain are siblings, not because power must be cruel, but because pain is the currency through which discipline, loyalty, and transformation are purchased. If you fear pain above all else, you will always be ruled. Because rulers are forged in pain, they do not flee it, they do not outsource it, they endure it, they study it, and eventually they wield it. Pain clarifies, it simplifies, it burns away illusion. Comfort, by contrast, is the great anesthetic. The crowd will choose comfort over freedom, comfort over clarity, comfort over consequence. And so they remain loyal to the very system that exploits them because it spares them discomfort. But the sovereign accepts discomfort. He walks toward it because he knows that control begins where comfort ends. He does not seek pain, but he does not flinch from it, because whoever can endure pain without breaking can reshape the world. If you cannot suffer strategically, you cannot lead. And once you understand this, truly understand, you begin to see your enemies differently. You stop despising them for their cruelty. You begin studying them for their effectiveness. You stop reacting to the game. You begin mastering it. Because the 13th discipline of power is this: realism. Sentiment does not shape reality. Sentiment is what reality consumes. You may wish the world to be fair, but it is not. You may wish leaders were good, but they are not. You may wish power followed justice, but it follows interest. And until you stop treating politics as a morality play, you will be nothing but a spectator. Realism is not cynicism. It is precision. It is the decision to see clearly, even when the truth is unpleasant. It is the refusal to flinch. You cannot engineer what you do not understand, and you cannot understand what you refuse to look at. Realism requires that you give up the comfort of blaming others. It demands that you ask, where am I complicit? Where have I surrendered? Where have I outsourced my will? Because blame is easy. Discipline is hard. But the disciplined man is dangerous, not because he is cruel, but because he cannot be baited. He cannot be moved by noise. He cannot be broken by setbacks. He is not governed by impulse. He governs his own rhythm. This is the 14th discipline of power, self-command. You want to govern others? Begin by governing yourself, your appetite, your fears, your instincts, your time, your focus. If you are ruled by your emotions, you will be ruled by those who know how to trigger them. But if you master your own impulses, you become immune to manipulation. You become still while others panic. You become focused while others are consumed by distraction. And in that stillness you see, not just what is happening, but why. Not just who is moving, but who is benefiting. From that stillness, you begin to plan. This is the beginning of real sovereignty. Not popularity, not protest, not performance, but the slow, patient construction of influence, the invisible consolidation of leverage, the long game. And the long game is only played by those who no longer need to be seen, those who do not crave applause, those who do not fear silence, those who have accepted that power, like war, is not won in moments but in the invisible accumulation of position. Position is everything. This is the 15th discipline of power, positioning. Do not seek permission, do not seek credit, do not seek recognition, seek position. If you are in position, you do not need to speak. The world adjusts to you. If you are in position, you do not need to demand loyalty. It will come. Position is not popularity. It is leverage. And leverage is not loud. It is quiet. It is the ability to move others without revealing the force behind the motion. Once you have position, you can begin to shape outcomes. Not through confrontation, but through inevitability. The most powerful force in politics is inevitability. Once people believe something will happen, they begin to adapt to it. Make your ascent look inevitable. Do not announce it. Engineer it. Do not beg. Realign. Do not plead. Position. Because once you control perception, once people believe that resisting you is futile, the game changes. They will adjust, they will accommodate, they will submit, not out of fear, but out of calculation. And that, in the end, is the final form of power. Not domination, not persuasion, not fear, but inevitability. And inevitability is built, not declared. You will not be given this path. You must carve it. You must unlearn what you've been taught. You must rebuild your instincts. And above all, you must choose to be distracted or to become dangerous. You've made it this far, and that means something. Not everything, but something. Most never arrive here not because they can't, but because they won't. Because they are fed just enough comfort to stay quiet, just enough distraction to feel awake, just enough illusion to never see the cage. But you felt the fracture. You sensed the script. You saw the absurd theater of modern politics for what it is, a performance to pacify, not to govern. You recognized that the noise was not freedom, but sedation. And now you know. You know that control no longer wears a crown, it wears a screen. That obedience no longer comes from violence, it comes from distraction. That the modern subject is not coerced, they are entertained into submission. This is the age of invisible prisons. And most are grateful for the bars, because they glitter. But if you've heard this voice, not my voice, but the voice within you that sharpened as these words sank in, then the question becomes very real. What will you do now? Not what will you feel. Not what will you post. Not what will you perform in front of the tribe, but what will you build? Because knowing is not power, knowing is debt. It obligates you, it strips you of excuses. You can no longer play the fool, you can no longer say you didn't see. The world is what it is, engineered, distorted, cold where it must be, cruel where it's allowed to be, indifferent always. But it is also plastic, not in the fake sense, but in the ancient one. It can be reshaped, but only by those who do not flinch, only by those who can hold the weight of realism without collapsing into nihilism, only by those who can resist the narcotic of outrage long enough to build something real. The future will not belong to the loudest. It will belong to the most disciplined, the most lucid, the most structured. Because in the end, all distraction is theft, and all attention is power. You have a finite number of hours, a finite number of battles, a finite amount of blood to give. Do not waste it chasing shadows. Do not spend it feeding machines that feed on your time. Do not live as a reactor. Live as a ruler. Begin small, but begin. Reclaim your time. Master your instincts. Own your focus. Build your alliances. Cultivate your silence. Learn what others ignore. Say only what must be said. And when you move, move with consequence. Not to be seen, but to shape. Not to appear strong, but to become unshakable. That is the beginning of sovereignty. Not granted, not given, but taken. You've been distracted, and that's how they controlled you. Now you know. And now, if you choose, you can become something else. Not a pawn, not a protester, not a performer, but a strategist, a sovereign, a shadow builder of the real. No more spectacle, no more noise, no more waiting. Now, you move.